G'day everybody. Today I am going through a very, it seems like a simple question. I love the Bible and I want to find out more about the Bible, and I'm going through some contradictions that the atheists have put up, and there's 439 of them, and we've got one today that I want to go through, and I'll go through that in a sec. But the biggest thing is, should we question how the Bible says that we should treat our enemies? In this contradiction, it seems like there's a bit of this and a bit of that, and it feels like we need to explore that. My name is Craig, and this is Morning Star Quest, where we are delving into the Bible, one question at a time. And with this list, we are delving into contradictions one at a time. And as I said, there's 439, and we are up to number 27. We're doing one a week, and this is such a good question. How should we, as the Bible says, treat our enemies? So, Cosmo, how should the Ammonites be treated? So do you want to go through this?
Absolutely, Craig. In Deuteronomy, the Israelites are told not to harass or contend with the Ammonites. But in Judges, we see conflict, with Jephthah fighting against them. This raises the question, are these actions contradictory, or is there a deeper message about when to seek peace and when to confront?
All right, so we have in Deuteronomy 2:19, and we can see it there, and Deuteronomy 2:37. So what is the general theme can you read those out then?
Sure. In Deuteronomy 2:19, the Israelites are instructed not to harass the Ammonites or provoke them to war, as their land is not given to the Israelites. Deuteronomy 2:37 mentions that the Israelites did not encroach on the land of the Ammonites or any place forbidden by God. The theme here seems to be about respecting boundaries and divine commands regarding other nations.
All right, so who are the Ammonites? I mean, Israel is obviously going into the promised land. The Ammonites are kind of around there or wherever. What's the background of all this?
The Ammonites were descendants of Lot, related to the Israelites. They lived east of the Jordan River, in what is now modern-day Jordan. As the Israelites journeyed to the Promised Land, they were instructed not to disturb the Ammonites, as their land wasn't part of the inheritance promised to Israel. The background here is about respecting God's allocations of land to different peoples.
Okay, so God is saying, because Lot is, back in the day, is Abraham's cousin, is that right?
Lot is actually Abraham's nephew.
Oh, nephew.
Lot's father, Haran, was Abraham's brother. Their relationship plays a significant role in the early narratives of Genesis.
All right. So then we come to Judges 11:32 and Jeremiah 49:2. What's that side of the coin?
In Judges 11:32, Jephthah leads Israel to victory over the Ammonites, which contrasts with the earlier command to avoid conflict. In Jeremiah 49:2, there's a prophecy of judgment against Ammon, indicating future conflict. This side of the coin suggests times when confrontation with enemies is depicted as necessary.
So I guess the question here is, should we question how the Bible says we should treat our enemies? Because in one way it's saying this is good, and in another way it's saying no, we need to battle them. We need to tackle them head on.
Right. It raises the tension between peace and conflict. It seems the Bible provides different approaches depending on the circumstances. Perhaps it's inviting us to explore when to choose each path. What do you think?
Actually, one question I have, between like we've got Deuteronomy here, and Deuteronomy at the start. Between Deuteronomy and then we jump to Judges and Jeremiah. I mean, how many years are we talking here?
The time span between Deuteronomy and Judges is roughly a few decades, covering the transition from Moses' leadership to the period of the Judges. Jeremiah's prophecies come much later, several centuries after the events of Judges, during the decline of the kingdom of Judah. It's a broad timeline with shifting contexts.
And is there any information from the rest of the Bible to give us an indication of what happened from Deuteronomy and then on towards Judges? I mean, did something happen or?
Yes, after Deuteronomy, the Israelites, under Joshua's leadership, enter the Promised Land, leading to the conquest and settlement narratives in the book of Joshua. This period includes battles, distribution of land among the tribes, and the initial establishment of Israelite society in Canaan. The book of Judges follows, depicting a more tumultuous time, with cycles of Israel falling away from God, oppression by enemies, and deliverance by leaders known as judges.
I find it interesting that we should we question the Bible with how we should treat our enemies? And I think the question is, yes, we can question it, but I feel like just having these 2 verses or 4 verses, but we can call them 2, is that enough? Because I feel like there's way more information from the rest of the Bible that will actually give indication of what's happening here and why there is differences.
Absolutely, Craig. These verses are just snapshots. The broader biblical narrative, including teachings of Jesus on loving enemies, provides a richer context. Exploring these differences invites deeper reflection on how to apply biblical principles to our lives.
And I mean, in Judges and Jeremiah, they're talking about, I guess, judging the Ammonites. Why is there a change where Deuteronomy says, okay, give them their space, and then in Judges and Jeremiah it's going, no, these people are going to get annihilated?
The shift could reflect changing circumstances. In Deuteronomy, Israel is a nomadic people preparing to enter the land. The command to avoid conflict might aim to prevent premature wars. By Judges and Jeremiah, Israel is established in the land, facing threats from neighboring nations, which could justify a more aggressive stance. It shows the complexity of navigating relationships with enemies.
And really, should we take this as, how should the Ammonites be treated? Should we question how the Bible treats their enemies, or how we should treat our enemies? We really can't judge it by this one contradiction, or is it I'm not even sure if it's a contradiction yet. Really, why should we go from just these 2 verses and not the whole Bible?
Exactly. Focusing on these verses alone might miss the broader biblical context. The Bible offers a complex narrative on dealing with enemies, including themes of justice, mercy, and love. It's essential to consider the full scope of biblical teaching to understand how these principles apply to our lives today.
And with the Ammonites, what were they doing? Were they when they're coming for Deuteronomy, they were a wandering nomad people that they were said, okay, let's just let them be, and they let Israel be. But by Judges, by Jeremiah, were they letting Israel be?
In Deuteronomy, the Ammonites are relatively passive, not posing an immediate threat. However, by the time of Judges, tensions escalate. the Ammonites become more aggressive, leading to conflicts like those in Judges. By Jeremiah's time, the Ammonites are actively hostile, making them subjects of prophetic judgment. Their changing posture towards Israel likely contributes to the differing biblical responses.
So really, it's not that this is a conflict of or a contradiction. This is more to do with, okay, when they first came, they were being passive, and over time, the Ammonites were not passive, and they really became very actively non-passive, if that's the word, aggressive. So this is not a contradiction. This is just like a difference between date 0 and 20 years on, 40 years on, as opposed to like 700 years on.
Exactly. It reflects an evolution in the relationship between Israel and the Ammonites. What starts as a directive to avoid conflict evolves into confrontation due to changing circumstances. So it's less about contradiction and more about context and the dynamic nature of these historical relationships.
And just to end this off, so how should we treat our enemies? Because I think the rest of the Bible, the whole Bible, I mean, you get these two verses or these two sections and you go, all right, there's black and there's white. But that's not how it happens throughout the Bible. I mean, there's a lot of black and white, but when you put it all together, it's so much color. So how should we treat our enemies?
The Bible, as a whole, teaches a nuanced approach. While there are instances of conflict, the overarching message, especially in the New Testament, emphasizes love, forgiveness, and seeking peace. Jesus' teachings encourage us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. It's about embodying grace and striving for reconciliation whenever possible.
And I would even go as far as we might even be the enemy of somebody else. So, and we probably deserve punishment. But then Jesus would come to us and take that away. And forgiveness is such a big thing. And I'm even lost for words.
Absolutely. It's powerful, isn't it? Forgiveness is transformative. It reminds us that we too can be seen as enemies by others. Yet through grace, we find the path to reconciliation. It's a profound lesson on the power of love and mercy.
Thank you so much, Cosmo. I think we're going to rest it there right now. And if you've got any questions with that, please put it in the comments below. And subscribe if you want more of these, because we've got, what have we got? 439 of these contradictions to go through. We're up to number 27, is it? I find going through these, it's more of a Bible study and it's well worth it. So if you want to know more, if you want to see more of these contradictions, and we can go through and find out whether they are a contradiction and explore them if they are. But I'm finding so far, and 27 of them, and a few others that I've just found here and there, I haven't found one contradiction yet, but I'm willing to go through it if we find them. So click on there and let's see if we can find a contradiction in this list, because it's more of a Bible study. Catch you. Go do something awesome for God, and I'll catch you in the next one.